Let's dive right into this explainer and unpack the world's very first comprehensive binding legal framework for artificial intelligence. We're talking, of course, about the EU AI Act. We are standing at a major turning point in technology governance right now. Up until this point, the conversation around AI has been pretty theoretical or, honestly, just based on corporate goodwill. It's kind of been the Wild West of technology. But the European Union is officially changing the game. They're stepping forward with a comprehensive approach designed to regulate exactly how AI systems are developed, how they're placed on the market, and ultimately how they're used. Now, you might be wondering, why should a tech leader in the US or Asia even care about a European law? Well, because the sheer scale of this legislation means if you want to do business in the world's largest single market, you've got to play by their rules. The stakes are absolutely immense here. And noncompliance? That could mean being locked out of the market entirely. So today, we're going to dive deep into exactly what this means for organizations and tech leaders moving forward. To make this dense regulatory shift perfectly clear, we're going to systematically break it down into 6 key areas: the EU AI Act defined, AI systems under the scope, the AI value chain, the risk-based approach, operationalizing your compliance, and finally, aligning with global standards. So let's start right off with Section 1, the EU AI Act defined, and really look at this massive shift from voluntary guidelines to enforceable law. For years now, the tech industry has operated largely on self-regulation when it comes to artificial intelligence. Companies would release these voluntary guidelines and basically just promise to do no harm with their algorithms. But the reality is, promises just aren't enough anymore, especially when we're dealing with tech that can literally alter human lives at scale. The EU decided those voluntary guidelines had to be scrapped and replaced with a powerful, binding legal structure. This framework reflects a really long-standing approach to tech governance in Europe, one that strongly emphasizes actual, enforceable risk management, strict accountability, and harmonized market rules. We are officially moving from an era of should-do to a very strict era of must-do. Now, the core purpose here isn't to just stifle innovation. It's to ensure that AI development and its market use actually protects our rights and our safety, all while demanding real accountability. This regulation safeguards 3 vital pillars: fundamental rights, public safety, and broader societal values. Let's make that a bit more concrete. Protecting fundamental rights means ensuring an AI hiring algorithm doesn't just automatically filter out candidates based on gender or race. Protecting public safety, that means an autonomous driving system won't make life-threatening errors on the highway without someone being held accountable. The legislation ensures that as AI becomes so deeply integrated into our daily lives, it absolutely does not compromise the fundamental values and safety of the public. All right, moving right along to Section 2, AI systems under the scope. What technologies are actually covered here? It is incredibly important to understand that this legislation is not just targeting the shiny new generative AI chatbots. The framework is remarkably comprehensive, and it applies broadly across all industries. It covers traditional rule-based AI systems, which, let's be honest, have been around for years. Think of automated tax software or logic-driven inventory systems. It also covers advanced machine learning algorithms. Those are the complex recommendation engines, figuring out what content you see online or what products you're going to buy. And of course, it goes all the way up to massive foundation models like GPT-4 or the large language models powering modern generative tools. What this really means is that no matter what specific flavor of artificial intelligence your business relies on, if you're operating or selling within the EU, this act absolutely applies to you. Which brings us to Section 3, the AI value chain. So, who exactly is held accountable? The EU AI Act introduces some incredibly clear legal obligations for an entire spectrum of organizations. It's not just the software developers who are on the hook anymore. Everyone in the value chain shares a piece of this compliance puzzle. So let's break down exactly what these roles mean. If your company builds an AI system from scratch, like, say, training a massive new language model, you are a provider. If you're a business, maybe a bank, that buys that model and integrates it to assess customer loan risk, you are a deployer. Now, if you bring an AI system created in a foreign country into the European Union market, you're an importer. And if you simply sell or distribute these systems locally, you're a distributor. If you are an executive or tech leader anywhere in this chain, you now have very specific legal obligations tailored directly to your role. Let's jump into Section 4, the risk-based approach, and how the EU ensures this regulation stays proportionate. Now, don't panic just yet. The EU emphasizes a highly structured, risk-based approach. The rulemakers fully understand that a chatbot recommending a pair of shoes simply does not carry the same risk as an AI system reviewing a patient's medical scans, right? Because of that, your compliance burden will scale directly and proportionately to the potential harm your specific AI could cause. They divide this all up into distinct tiers. At the very top, you have unacceptable risk. These are systems like government-run social scoring or manipulative subliminal AI, and there's no gray area here. They are banned entirely. Below that is high risk, which includes things like AI using critical infrastructure, law enforcement, or medical devices. These require incredibly rigorous auditing and compliance checks. Then you have limited risk, like a customer service chatbot. For these, you simply have to be transparent and tell the user they're talking to a bot. Simple enough. Finally, there's minimal risk, like your everyday spam filter, which faces almost zero new obligations. So the level of potential harm literally dictates the level of regulation.
Okay, Section 5, operationalizing your compliance. What are the concrete actions you actually need to take? So how do we move past the high-level legal theory and actually build practical day-to-day compliance? Well, it requires 3 concrete steps. First off, you need to establish robust governance structures. And I don't just mean throwing together a policy document. It means creating something like an internal AI ethics board. You need a designated group of real humans actively making decisions and overseeing how algorithms are used across your company. Second, you must implement continuous risk management processes. You have to constantly evaluate your systems against those risk tiers we just talked about, aggressively testing for bias and tracking data quality throughout the entire life cycle of the product. And third, you have to deploy the actual technical controls within the software itself. This looks like building in human-in-the-loop kill switches, creating really comprehensive data logging so you can easily audit the AI's decisions, and just ensuring the system behaves safely and exactly as you intended. This is how you actually embed the AI Act right into your daily business architecture.
And finally, Section 6, aligning with global standards, giving us a look at the big picture. Here is the really good news. This regulation does not exist in isolation, and navigating it doesn't mean you have to start from absolute zero. The EU AI Act aligns incredibly closely with major international standards that you, as technical leaders, might already be leveraging. For instance, there's ISO/ISO 42001, which is an internationally recognized standard for managing AI systems, kind of like how ISO 27001 is the gold standard for cybersecurity. Then there's the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, a really comprehensive guide developed in the US to help organizations map, measure, and manage AI risks. By connecting the new requirements of the EU AI Act with these existing, recognized frameworks, organizations can design compliance programs that are highly efficient, super easy to audit, and totally scalable. This is absolutely crucial. It means you don't have to build some custom, fragmented compliance program for every single country you operate in. You align with these global frameworks once, and you scale that compliance worldwide. It's a real game changer. So what's the ultimate takeaway here? The era of asking for permission and just relying on voluntary guidelines is officially over. The era of proving compliance and facing real, tangible legal consequences has begun. We've seen today that this act covers a massive range of technologies, from simple, everyday algorithms to incredibly complex foundation models. It holds the entire value chain accountable, from the developers building the code all the way to the businesses deploying it. And it demands concrete governance that scales directly with the risk to human rights and public safety. The stakes are simply too high to ignore, with the very real threat of massive fines or worse, total market exclusion for those who fail to adapt. So looking at your own organization, your internal risk management processes, and your aligner with global standards, you have to ask yourself one critical question. If regulators knocked on your server room doors tomorrow, would your algorithms pass the test? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I truly hope this deep dive helps you navigate the complex but absolutely essential road ahead.